Hello and welcome to my virtual chat show with me, Shabari. And so now tonight I will be joined by a very special guest this evening. Her name is Chinzia Delegate, otherwise known as Chinzia Supergirl. And she and her husband, Nico, run a rabbit rescue in Stanmore. And I believe they have about 60 rescued animals, including rabbits and birds. And so you'll have a chance to actually meet them later. And so I first met Chinzia and her husband Nico 2 years ago. This was at the St Mary's and St Richard's church fete in Northolt, which is where I live. And I found out about the event through Harrow Vegans, in fact. And Chinzia and Nico were there with their London wildlife protection stall and were selling some really lovely vegan cakes. And then the following year, which was last year, I actually had a stall there myself. And we had an area by the stream, and we sort of called it the vegan zone. And we found the people that sort of came up to us, they were really interested in vegan issues. You know, we're both long-term vegans, and also our friend Wendy Knight, who's part of the church, she's also a vegan, and she actually made sure that there were vegan options at the barbecue there, which was really good. And so we've actually also been on a bat walk together in that area of Northolt, and that was led by Wendy, and that really was a lot of fun. So I really hope that we can all go on a bat walk again one day. So I'm just going to bring Chinzia on. You'll have the opportunity to ask Chinzia questions, and yeah, so if you could put that in the chat box as well, in the comment section, that would be great. So I'm just going to bring on Chinzia. Hi, Chinzia.
Hi, good evening.
How are you? How's your day been?
Hot.
Yes, yeah,
Hot and busy.
Yeah.
It just makes it that little bit harder when the weather's like this.
Oh goodness, yes. I mean, did about half an hour ago, did you hear the thunderstorm? And it
just started now.
Oh right, yeah. So it started half an hour ago here in Northolt, and it's absolutely chucking it down now. But I tell you what, we really need it. I mean, it's just oh my goodness me! It for the past several days, well, last week in fact, it's just been so incredibly hot, and it's so difficult to actually function. You know, when it's this hot, and I can imagine that that you know your little sort of furry friends as well are kind of like finding it a little bit too much to kind of cope in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you first of all, how did it all begin with you starting Little Furries Rabbit Rescue and also London Wildlife Protection?
Sure. So we started by spending our time, mainly all of our weekends, volunteering at farm animal rescue centres throughout Kent. So we worked at places like Huglet, the Retreat Animal Rescue in Ashford. I actually started the volunteer days there, got groups of people together, and got everybody working at the sanctuary. We also used to volunteer at Friend Farm Animal Sanctuary, and that's really where we did the bulk of our work. So we used to go there quite a lot, fundraising. We used to help with open days. I run a number of the open day kitchens, and yeah, so we've been heavily involved with Friend, and really the way that Little Furries started was by picking up 5 rabbits from Friend. a guy called Mark runs a Friend Animal Sanctuary, and he was called to rescue 5 rabbits, 2 adults and 3 babies. And of course, like any of us, it doesn't matter what the species is. If it needs help, you go and help it. Yeah. And he was called to help these bunnies that had been left behind in a house, locked in a hutch at the bottom of a garden when a couple divorced and moved out of the house. And he went and picked them up, took them back to the rescue, and we happened to go the following day. And rabbits are not farm animals. And Mark was so honest, and he said, I've no idea what I'm doing with these animals. Can you help? And I said to Nico, we've got to take them home. You know, we can't leave them here. So we brought them home. So we had them all 5 separated until they were neutered and vaccinated. But within 3 days of bringing those 5 home, 3 further rabbits were found in Ealing Park, all crammed in a wire cage, that needed help. So we brought those home as well. So in the space of a week, we ended up with 8 rabbits that we hadn't planned for. And you know, the word gets out. Oh, you guys rescue rabbits, don't you? Do you know there's a rabbit here that needs help? And that's how it's all started. I mean, nobody sets out to do this. Nobody sets out to set up a rescue and practically give up their lives to do this. And so this is how Little Furries began. We ended up with, I think it was 19 rabbits before I created the page. Somebody suggested, oh, you know what you need to do? You must set up your own page so that you're visible and people know you have all these rabbits and you can get them adopted. To be honest, it was the most counterproductive thing I've ever done, because once you make yourself visible and people find you, they don't find you to adopt rabbits, they find you to give up their rabbits and give you even more. So when I made myself visible, I ended up with 35. And yeah, and really we had to start managing things properly at that point. You know, we were just inundated. We didn't manage things the way that we manage them today. We've learned along the way how to say no, which ones to take in, to ask for help. And we didn't know everything at the time. We still don't know everything today, but we feel much more confident in running the rescue today. So that's how Little Furry started. The wildlife work has always been something that that's been close to my heart. And London Wildlife Protection started 8 years ago, officially. I mean, they were operating before then. And I got involved through the rescue of some pigeons at Sainsbury's when they installed some new netting. So again, I knew nothing about anything. I was just an innocent individual that saw trapped birds. I just turned up. They wouldn't do anything about it. I decided to carry a ladder to the car park with a massive, great big pair of kitchen scissors, cut the netting open to release these birds. And I got told off quite badly for criminal damage. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I felt they were doing something wrong. Anyway, it's not how things should be done. I'm very aware of the law these days and what the process is when things like this happen. But yeah, and really that's how it started.
Okay, great, fantastic story. I mean, say if somebody does actually see a trapped bird in netting, you know, who should they contact, you know, to sort of go through the right kind of process, you know, rather than, you know, so like
if you do see birds trapped in netting, the first and foremost, you must contact the proprietor of the building or property or wherever. If it's a bridge, obviously they're mainly railway companies, which makes it much more difficult. The law is a little bit grey when it comes to them. But generally, if it's in a building, if it's somewhere that the property is owned, especially if it's private, you must raise it with them immediately. By law, they have to release trapped birds. Under the Animal Welfare Act, the 2006 Animal Welfare Act, it is their duty to ensure the birds are released. So they have to call in whoever installed the netting in the first place to release them. If you have difficulties with it, there are things that you can do to report them. If you're in London or in the vicinity of London, you can ask for help from London Wildlife Protection. and there'll be people that can guide you through the process, that can help, that can send letters on people's behalves as well. And you know, worst comes to the worst, you can get the police involved as well, the Wildlife Crime Unit police, and they are inundated with calls. But if the case is quite serious and you're finding lots of trapped birds, they will get involved.
Oh, that's really good. So they're not just going to not do anything.
No, I mean, there is always a risk that they will go and shoot them. You know, if
Oh
you report
no.
them and put it, you know, bring it to their attention, there's always a risk that they can go and shoot them. But
Oh, no.
it's something that if the site is monitored, if you know that they're coming, if you know that this is their intention, then you can try and stop them from doing this. Unfortunately, pest controllers are quite sneaky. They're very good at bending the law, and when they're dealing with members of the public who are not so familiar, not so confident in how things work, they do take advantage and turn things to their own benefit. So I've had lots and lots of dealings with pest controllers. I've had lots of dealings with proprietors of buildings and railway companies and so on. And I have to say, I would say probably in 8 out of 10 cases, we always manage to get either the birds released or the netting pulled down. So it's about standing your corner, fighting your rights, and you know, making sure that they know that you know what you're talking about.
That's really good. So yeah, no, that's good that that you know we've got people like you that you know you've been standing your ground and standing up to these people,
Yeah,
and so many people just don't care, and you know you just have to keep pounding and making sure that that and you know this is the thing that they don't see that animals have rights, and we're kind of like, well, we are the voice for the animals, you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so anyway, without further ado, I thought that it would be wonderful for you to show my viewers at home, you know, around your rescue.
Yeah, sure. I think you wanted me to have a quick peek at the outside before it goes really dark.
Oh yes, yeah. As long as it's not, is it raining? You mentioned that it's starting to rain
I
where
tell you
you are.
what, let me just turn the camera around. Bear with me.
No problem.
Okay. So that's Nico just starting the
Hello,
night shift.
hello, Nico.
Hi, Shamari.
Hi there.
So this is just a quick peek at the outside. Our garden is not very big because all our space has just been eaten up by building enclosures. We have a little patch of garden that we rotate with all the animals. The outdoor enclosures all have their own little runs. I'll just take a little look closer. You might still be able to see, it's getting quite dark now. So they all have a little like garden space, and then they have their own enclosures. We have Dumbo in there. He's quite
Oh, yeah, I
popular
can
here.
see. Yeah. Oh,
I don't
hello.
think you
Who's
can
this
see
one?
him. Is he visible? Can you see him? It might be too
Yeah,
dark.
I can see. Is there three of them in there?
No, no, just the one, just the
Oh,
one.
just the one. Oh, it's all different colours. So that's why I thought that there were three. Hello.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was hoping to catch him before Nika put them all to bed. So, oh,
oh,
here he is.
yeah. Oh, what's this one's name?
So Nika's. So this is Dumbo, for obvious reasons.
Dumbo. Oh, the
Yeah.
ears.
So he's a continental giant, and he's got huge ears, and he's going to grow to be a really big bunny. And he's been here 4 weeks at the rescue now, 4 or 5 weeks. He was found as a stray. We have
Oh,
six enclosures outside, which accommodate
oh, yeah.
16 of the bunnies. The majority of the bunnies are actually indoor bunnies, which I'm going to take you through now. Just bear with me. So this is the back door into the kitchen. Our kitchen doubles up as absolutely everything. Medical room, dining table, just anything. You name it, it's everything. This space here is where it all happens. In our kitchen presently, we have a bunny. He's a really good bunny. His name is Button. Now, I have to warn you in advance. I should have actually told your viewers that the rescue itself is run from home. Our home is the rescue, which surprises a lot of people when they visit. You know, they make arrangements to visit the rescue and then they go, oh, but it's your home. It's like, yes. So every inch of our home is the rescue. So in our kitchen, we have Button. We've been operating beyond capacity for over 2 years now. Our capacity as a charity is for 30 rabbits. We've been operating with 38 to 43 on average throughout the last 2.5 years, so way beyond capacity, which means we sometimes have to use our kitchen and sometimes we have to use our bathroom, believe it or not. That's our isolation room. So within the kitchen, we have a glass room that's purpose built. I don't know if it's easy to see on camera. So just to the right, it's a glass wall. The panels all open up. Currently, I've got 2 panels open. And we have 2 parrots in here. We have Krishna, that's been with us for 3 years. She's an African grey. And we have Polly, that's only been with us about 6-7 weeks. She is the naughtiest parrot that you can ever think of. Yeah, if anybody wants her for adoption, only kidding. And they live with 5 bunnies in the same room. So we have 3 on this side. So this is the terrible twins. They are 2 of the 5. That's how, you know, of the 5 we rescued the first time from Friend Animal Sanctuary. So the terrible twins, they live with their brother Rocky. That's probably under the bench somewhere. And then on the other side, can't see from here, but the room is split in 2. We have elderly bunnies. Well, one elderly bunny, her name is Snuggy. She's 10.5 years old. Unfortunately, her brother died a few days ago, which was a major hit to the rescue because they were Nico's original pets. So that was a very sad story. In the kitchen, I often keep baby birds if I have to feed them regularly. So just to give you some idea, there's a little baby pigeon in here. He gets fed quite regularly, so he doesn't know what's going on, poor thing. So when people come in and I have little carriers here, they're normally babies. So as we leave the kitchen, we head for what used to be my front. It is no longer. This is a free roaming room for a bunny called Jessie. Jessie is currently sleeping behind the sofa, but she has access to the whole room. So she has a corner of the room that's segmented for her, bits, tunnels, and so on. We're looking after this hamster at the moment. I think he's, there he is, just in his little tray. He's leaving on the 22nd of August. And as I mentioned earlier, I do lots of wildlife rescue. So at the moment, I have lots of birds, which I've had to put a stop to taking in at the moment, just temporarily, just because there are too many. I have a few birds leaving on Sunday, so hopefully that will create some space. That's not all the birds, by the way. I have lots more. This used to be our dining room, and it now doubles up as another animal room. The one thing I want to draw people's attention to is we don't cage animals here. The only animals that are caged are guinea pigs or small mammals, which obviously have to be caged, they have to be contained, or if an animal has had an operation or it's very sick and it's had to be separated from its friends. But all the bunnies here have enclosures. We try and work within the guidelines of the RWAF, which is the Rabbit Welfare Association Fund. And the guidelines state that the space should be a minimum of 10 foot by 6 foot. Now, we used to be able to meet that with most of our spaces. However, the more animals you take on, the more enclosures you have to create, the more you have to eat into other animal spaces. So now the enclosures don't meet the 10 foot by 6 foot, but they do have quite a lot of space and they get rotated into the garden as well. And, you know, they do get a couple of hours in the garden. This is Chickpea and Lola's space. And so these two came in just over a year and a half ago. And just to give you an example, that litter tray that you can see there in the background, that used to be Chickpea's home. He lived in that, which is his cage base, for just over a year. And look how big this bunny is. And for just over a year, he was locked up in a cage that size, which is a 2 foot cage. And as you can see, the space they have now, whilst it doesn't quite meet the RWAF guidelines, it's still quite a large space. Lola's disabled. She's only got 3 legs, the little chocolate bunny. She was also a stray. Chickpea was rescued from a family with 11 children. And that was the second family that we know of. He could have had many more families. In here we have Henry, who's 14 years of age. He is the oldest bunny in the rescue. We also have a wild bunny. And this wild bunny was hand reared. And he was the only survivor of 6 that were dug up by a cat. And he was hand reared. He survived and he was bonded with a domestic and then ended up here when his mum couldn't look after him anymore, him and his partner, but his partner since died. Here we have Milo. He is one of 2 fighting brothers who were kept together unneutered, and they ended up fighting, which is the most common thing. When rabbits are sold in shops, they're sold at 8 weeks old. By the time they get to 12 weeks, they are removed from the shop sales area and put in adoption pens as unwanted animals, because by the time they get to 12 weeks, people don't want to buy them anymore because they're not tiny and fluffy anymore. They're just a little bit bigger, even though they're just babies. And they sell them to people without any knowledge of how these creatures behave. And when they reach maturity at the age of between 4 and 5 months, their hormones kick in and they end up fighting. 2 boys will end up killing each other. You know, the females mutilate each other terribly if they're not spayed. And they end up in rescue because they cause each other such terrible injuries. And in addition to that, they sometimes, the sex is wrong, and they'll sell a female and a male. And at 4 months of age, all of a sudden they start having babies, and they have a litter every 4 weeks, and they'll have anything between 6 and 10 babies. Imagine having that every 4 weeks. And so we had a lady that ended up with 18 rabbits in the space of 8 weeks, and you know, 3 rescues had to step in and take them, and there was no other choice. So from this room, I forgot to mention, I have 2 guinea pigs up just above on that desk there. I use actually this room as an example in my talk, where the cage you see there is empty, and that's an example cage of a 4-foot cage that's sold by Pets at Home as a living cage for a rabbit. The guinea pigs are in a 4'2" by 2.5 foot cage, which is considerably bigger than the empty cage you see next to it. And those are 2 guinea pigs. Normally Pets at Home sell a 3-foot cage for them, And the guinea pigs get outdoor
So
space
the
too.
4-foot cage is the biggest cage that pets at home actually sell for
Yes,
rabbits.
and it's shocking and it's wrong. I
Yeah.
think if there's a takeaway to take from this talk today is don't buy animals at all from shops. Always adopt, and definitely do not buy an animal if the only thing you can offer it is a cage, because in that situation, just don't get one, because you wouldn't buy a cat and put it in a cage. You wouldn't buy a dog and put it in a cage. Why would you get a rabbit and put it in a cage? It's just
Yeah.
not acceptable. You know, we know far too much today to be able to do that to an animal. And I just want to explain where the hutches come from. In the Victorian days, rabbit meat was very popular, and people used to get rabbits and rear them and keep them in hut 6 months so that they could fatten them up before they killed them to eat them. So a rabbit would only ever spend 6 to 8 months in a hutch so that it didn't move, it got fat, and then it got eaten. And we've moved way beyond the Victorian days, but the mentality of people is still that, you know, if you get a rabbit, you need a hutch. And I don't understand why that's not shifting. And the ignorance is still rife around this particular topic, because we know so much more these days. You know, if you're going to get a pet, if you're going to get a rabbit as a pet, not to eat for meat, then why would you lock it up in a hutch? Not just for the 6 or 8 months like the Victorians used to, but for up to 10 years. I mean, unless if they keep it for that long. But anyway, I'm now in the spare room. We use this room for bonding. So when people have a single bunny, we always encourage people to get a friend for their bunny. Bunnies are social creatures and they have to have a friend. This is Pickles. He lost his mum. It was him and his mum. His mum died during the spay operation, so he got left on his own as a youngster. So the family approached us for a friend. I happen to have a youngster exactly the same age. Her name is Cookie. And so we're now bonding Cookie and Pickles together. And the bonding process is very much about, you have them next to each other. It's a small space. You know, we wouldn't normally have them living in this type of space because it's too small. But the idea is you put them in a small space side by side so that they get to know each other's smells. And then once they know each other's smells, you do an introduction. If they get on, then we remove the panels and then we monitor and see, you know, if they get on really well and they bond and they start grooming each other, then they can go home. The process normally takes a week. These guys are staying for 2 because Pickles needs to stay here a little bit longer, and Cookie needs to stay here a little bit longer as well. So yeah, it's all looking really promising so far. So I'm quite pleased. I also use this room for birds. As you can see, I have all the birds lined up. These are all sick ones that are being treated or injured. So, and I also have in this room, which I show people normally in person, what a big cage looks like. This cage is actually a 5'2" cage by almost, it's 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet almost. So it's quite a big cage. So when people come here, they go, wow, that's a huge cage. And I say, yes, I use that for emergencies. That's generally what we would keep a rabbit in temporarily.
So
But
did you
again,
make
we wouldn't have
the
animals
cage
living in
yourself?
there.
Did you make the
No, no,
cage?
no. The cage was, no, the
Where did
cage
you?
was donated to us.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we're quite happy that that cage was actually donated to us. So I'm quite pleased with it. And it's empty at the moment. Cookie was in there temporarily. So I'm just going to put the light on. As you can see, this is our home. I'm now taking you upstairs. So upstairs we have 12 further animals, and they are permanent residents at the rescue. They are animals that were rescued a while back. As a policy to the rescue, we do not rehome elderly, disabled, or long-term sick animals. And the majority of them are up here. So we have Lily here. Lily was found as a stray in Watford. She had fly strike, and she's disabled. She's got a broken leg, and so we bonded her with Sergeant. He was 10 on the 1st of May, so he's an elderly. Everything in here is very flat for her because she can't jump. They can't have tunnels because she got stuck in a tunnel once. So it needs to be quite plain. They get garden access as well. And yeah, they're quite happy bunnies.
Yeah.
And then we have Panty and... Say that again?
Sorry. What is fly strike?
Oh, fly strike is when it's a horrible thing. Flies will land on a wound, or rabbits will get a pooey bottom sometimes, especially if they're disabled and they can't get to the area to clean themselves, or if they've been given a really bad diet. It's quite common, and the flies will go and lay eggs. Then those eggs hatch, and then maggots will start to eat the animal from the inside out. And it's normally a killer if not caught early enough. She was very lucky that it was caught early enough and all the maggots were removed before they got to her internally. And yeah, she was very lucky, and she's here today with us. But she's absolutely adorable. You know, these animals are so grateful when you rescue them.
Yeah.
These two you see here, you remember I said to you I picked up 3 more from Ealing Park the same week we picked up the 5 from the couple that divorced. Well, those are 2 of the 3 that are still alive today. One of them sadly died. So these are all elderly bunnies. They're incontinent, so I have towels laid down on the floor. I have to change those towels every single day, otherwise they smell, so I do washing every day. It's hard work, you know, and you know, rabbits are not easy animals to look after, and I certainly don't recommend them for children. Lots of shops sell them as starter pets. They are far from a starter pet. They're considered exotic animals. You have to have an exotic vet to look after them, and they are hard work. You know, they have to have hay 24/7. They have to be kept clean. Because they're at risk of fly strike. They have a very sensitive digestive system, and if the adults don't take ownership of these animals, the animals will die. It's you know, it's just as simple as that. We've seen it over and over. And in fact, when I'm approached by many people that say I want to get rabbits for my kids, my answer is always no, because rabbits should be a family pet. It shouldn't be a kid's pet. And I mean, far from it. I have lots of people that call me and say, I always ask the question, what is it that why rabbits, and what is it that you want from your rabbits? And 90% of the time I end up recommending a cat, because they want an animal they can pick up, they can put on their laps to watch TV. These animals are not for that. So Nico's always listening to my call and saying, we're a rabbit rescue, why are you recommending cats? It's like, you need to understand what these people want. So yeah, so we have in this is the room next door to the bathroom. And so in here, we've split it into 4 enclosures. We have, again, Jack is quite elderly. He's a big bunny. He's quite elderly, and he's with Lola, another chocolate bunny. Again, they've been here a while. We've got these 2 here. They were never named, but their names are Mum and Dad. And and they are the mum and the dad for the 5 we originally rescued. We have the guinea pigs up here. I have four guinea pigs here. They're elderly guinea pigs. The girls are 5.5 years old. Guinea pigs live about 6 years. You can sometimes get 8 years out of them, but they tend to suffer from tumours quite a lot. In this space here, we have Ria. She was a stray from Edgware. Took us a month to catch her. And we also have Pambay. If anybody follows the page, Pambay is the one-eared bunny that's had multiple operations. He had an abscess in his ear canal, and he's recovered quite nicely. The last operation was about 5 weeks ago. So he's a one-eared bunny.
Oh, wow.
But he's doing really well. And then on this we have Cookie and Benji, who's hiding in his box. And he's a dwarf cross. So yeah, so there's 12 in total upstairs. I think there's 26 in total inside the house,
Oh, wow.
and 16 outdoors. We have 6 guinea pigs in total. We have 3 cats, 2 parrots, and at the moment I have 20 pigeons. So that's
Wow.
quite a few animals at the moment. It keeps
Oh,
us
wow.
busy. It's never ending, and yeah, the work is non-stop. They do take quite a lot of looking after, and every inch of the house is used for the animals. So I'm just heading back downstairs now. So, what do you think?
Oh, wow, amazing, really, really amazing. I mean, you know, the fact that you're sort of, you know, you're doing this day in, day out, you know, I'm sure that you know, often you have to wake up at night. Oh, hello. Oh,
That's Betty.
oh, that cat looks a little bit like Timmy, my husband's old cat. Oh. Yes, I'm sure that that you know you're having to kind of like get up in the middle of the night in the small hours of the morning to do feeding and you know, so you know what is I wanted to ask you, what is day to day life like, running your rescue? I mean, obviously, you know, that is your life, that is your whole life. And yeah, and you know, what do you feed the animals? You know, what do you feed the rabbits? What do they eat? What do the pigeons eat?
So rabbits are fed fresh veg twice a day, morning and evening, and they get nuggets or dried food, a handful of dry food in the evening just before bedtime. The rabbit's diet consists of mainly hay, fresh hay. So we give a variety of hay: Timothy hay, meadow hay, ready grass. The younger ones get alfalfa. But the way that their diet is split is 85% hay, 10% veg, and 5% dried nuggets, so fresh food. With the birds is, well, the parrots get fed fresh veg. They're exotic, so they get things like mango, they get papaya, they get all the good stuff, because that's what they have to eat. And they also get special nuggets that parrots have to eat, which consists of all their nutrients. And the wild birds, depending, so if they're self-eating, then they'll eat seed. The majority of my work is with wood pigeons. Wood pigeons eat vegetation more than seed. So in the wild, they'll eat leaves, grass, and they'll pick berries, and you know, they'll eat lots of green stuff. So I tend to give them watercress, spinach, and rocket. They absolutely love that. Chop it up. And that's how I teach the youngsters to eat, and then move them on to a bit of seed. But seed isn't a natural diet for them. Whereas the feral pigeons, or the city pigeons, as people call them, they're seed eaters. So they're much easier to handle. And the youngsters, you know, the babies, they have to be syringe fed. So they're on formula.
Mm.
So everybody gets a different meal. We're the only ones that haven't got time to eat.
So do you sometimes get people sort of calling you in the small hours of the morning and asking you like you know, that they've well, mentioning to you that they found a bird and that's injured, and that, you know, can you help? Do you often get that?
Yeah, I mean, luckily it's not that often, but we do get calls at 11 o'clock at night, midnight. I think the latest time I've had a pigeon delivered was at 1:15 in the morning. and it was such a poorly bird. I didn't go to bed until 2:30, having treated this bird. I had to put a heat pad on. I had to really rehydrate it. I wasn't sure if it was even going to make it, but the bird survived. And so it really depends. But, you know, the types of people that we are, if an animal's in need, then we just rush to it and we will help. It's just what we do. You wouldn't help one and not the other. And with the nature of the animals we have at the rescue, you know, the majority are elderly, sick, disabled, long-term conditions. You know, sometimes they get very poorly. When they do, they stop eating, and it means that Nico mainly does syringe feeding every couple of hours, and that will be throughout the night to make sure that they're okay. And the next day you don't get a chance to rest. It's, you know, you start the process all over again. And no, it's not easy. It takes a lot of dedication. It's really hard work, and I'm human, the same as the rest of the world. I have good days and bad days too. And yeah, but it's really rewarding when you see some of the beautiful homes that some of these bunnies have gone to. Five-star homes, fantastic families. The efforts have been worthwhile. You know, sometimes you get inquiries from people that just don't understand the emotional attachment we have with these animals, having rescued them from the most appalling, neglectful, abused situations, or taken them off the streets, and they've come in a terrible state. And, you know, we bring them back to health, and they're lovely bunnies again. And you know, we've rebuilt their spirit, their trust in human beings. We're not going to give them up to a home that just wants to stick them in a hutch. And we have to deal with rude people. We have to deal with people that just don't get it. And I don't want my animals going to those homes. And I often say to people, I'm sorry if this offends you, but you don't have the right setup. You don't have the right understanding of what these animals need. And I won't let them go. It's really sad, though, to know that they can just walk into any pet shop and buy one for 15 quid. And there's nothing I can do about it, because that very animal is going to end up with me again at some point. And yeah, it's heartbreaking. The government needs to step in and do something about it. These animals need to stop being sold in pet shops, and they need to be so easily accessible to individuals that just want to buy the kids a living toy.
And the fact that that pet shops don't actually vet the people that buy the pets, and you know, you do that, you know, as you've said, you won't allow and you know, because like they're your family, and you know, you want to make sure that that the animals that you're looking after will go to a new home. So you do a lot of vetting before before you let them go, and obviously you know, it's heartbreaking for you to let them go, you know, after looking after them, and you know, like and treating them.
I mean, we want our animals to find good homes, because they need that one-to-one care. They need that one-to-one attention. When you have, you know, 43, you know, you might spend 2 minutes with them in a day, and you know, it's not enough. It's not enough. They need to be petted. They need attention. They need to be part of a family. And I want them to have that. But if they can't have that elsewhere, then of course they'll stay here. But yeah, we do home checks. We speak to people, and I have to say, we've met some wonderful people. Our bunnies have gone to some lovely homes, and you know, it's lovely to see that when we part with them. You know, of course, you know, we sometimes cry and think, oh, you know, we're never going to see them again. And but we get updates, and the families are wonderful. They understand the needs for space. They understand the need for enclosures. They understand all the needs that these bunnies have.
Oh, definitely. And you know, talking about pet shops, I mean, I really find it so shocking that anybody can just walk into a pet shop and pay £15 for a pet, and then they're not vetted, they're not, you know, the pet shop owner doesn't, you know, all they care about is the sale, and the customers are not vetted, and I just find that really shocking. Yeah, it's definitely the law needs to the law needs to change
Yeah.
on
So
that.
there's a petition at the moment I'd like to mention, that if anybody can support the petition to try and get the government to step in to stop selling animals, to stop selling, animals in general, but rabbits in particular in pet stores, then it would be great if we could share that petition with,
Mm,
your audience.
yeah, I'll do that definitely. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And also, I wanted to ask you, because maybe some of my viewers at home may not know what, we talk about puppy farms, because obviously, as vegans and animal lovers, we don't agree with puppy farms. Can you tell my viewers at home why they should never buy from a puppy farm?
Yeah, well, it's not just puppy farms. It's any type of breeding environment, whether it's puppies, whether it's kittens, whether it's rabbits, whether it's anything. I mean, specifically, for instance, I talk about rabbits in general. I talk about the RWAF guidelines, which they're the ones that set the guidelines up for the RSPCA, for the PDSA, for any of those organisations, and the really good reputable rescues will work within those guidelines, and they won't send bunnies out for adoption outside of those guidelines. But rabbits in a breeding situation, they'll be kept in a small cage, probably 2-3 foot cage. They cannot move. They are a male will just be thrown into the cage, but to rape her, and for her to become pregnant and have a litter of anything between 6 and 10 bunnies, and she can become pregnant straight away, having had those babies, and they'll impregnate her again, being raped again by putting a male in the same cage, and she can be pregnant while she's lactating, while she's got these babies, she'll have another litter of babies, and it will just go on and on and on and on for her to give birth every 4 weeks. And she will just become nothing. She'll become completely worn out, completely spent. She'll get to the point where she can't have any more babies. And at that point, normally, they will dispose of her. And sometimes they sell ex-breeding does to, for adoption. They'll sell them for £10 or £20, and just to get rid of these animals. Sometimes they'll just kill them because they've done their job. That's all they need to do. And it's the same thing with dogs and kittens. They're kept in really dirty environment. They're not cared for. The diet's appalling. They're normally really skinny. They're normally in really poor health. They don't get them to see vets. They're not cared for. They are not socialized, and it is the cruelest of environments to keep an animal in. But people don't see that. They only see a cute little baby that's sold in a shop, or a picture of a cute little baby. They don't see what the parents go through of these animals. So don't buy.
It really is shocking, and I do emphasize to my viewers, and I will say it again and again, that don't buy. If you want a pet, please please go to a rescue. And there's so many animals, unwanted animals out there, and
Absolutely.
Rabbits, dogs, they're puppies. They're not just for Christmas. And the fact is, like, I think the sales of pets have actually gone up during lockdown, I believe, as well, because the parents are thinking, well, the child is at home, and to kind of entertain the child, and it's not for it's not, animals are not there for humans, and people need to think differently. They need to think that yeah, animals are there for life. They're not something that you just buy one day and then toss away when when they're unwanted. Yeah, so
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when COVID started, people, we had two phases of dumpings of animals. So when COVID started, people dumped a lot of the animals onto the streets, and I'm not talking just about rabbits. I'm talking about guinea pigs. I'm talking about small animals, snakes, lizards, anything. They were all dumped onto the streets because a lot of ignorant people thought they were going to catch this virus from their pets. Very sadly, a lot of animals were taken to vets to be put to sleep, and by law, anybody can go to any vet and have their animal put to sleep, no questions asked. It's really that bad. Yeah. I used to think,
didn't know that.
I used to think that there had to be something wrong with your animal for you to ask for it to be put to sleep. That's not the case. If an owner of an animal says, I want this animal put to sleep, the vet can't do anything about it. They can try and talk you out of it, or can try and get you to contact a rescue. If you don't want to, then it's your right to have its life ended. And that's the law. So what happened over COVID, for the ones that weren't taken to the vet, they were just thrown out onto the streets. So we picked up 9 rabbits in the space of 3 weeks at the start of the virus. Then I think, I don't know, something was said on TV to say, stop doing this, you're not going to catch it from your animals. So people stopped. Then we had lockdown. The government guidelines to rescues was to shut down. You know, we were not allowed to operate. We were not allowed to move animals on. No adoptions. We had to close our doors. We stayed open for emergencies. So we were running around picking animals up off the streets, taking animals from people that had purchased them beforehand. And they had 2 girls or 2 boys. They were fighting because they couldn't get them neutered because all the vets were closed. And so we were having to take those in as well. And then what happened? Yes, Pets at Home, all 330 stores UK-wide, managed to get some kind of deal from the government, and I still don't know how, to remain open and sell animals, even though all rescues were told to shut down. Now imagine that. Yeah, you have lockdown, excuse me, you have lots of children at home off school. So lots of parents went to these stores and bought their kids pets just to play with for the lockdown period. So when lockdown restrictions started to lift, of course, these animals had to go. The kids had had enough of them. They played with them for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long it was. And the parents, started to go back to work. They had to get rid of these animals, and the pet shops wouldn't take them back. Rescues were all mega full because they were closed throughout the whole of lockdown and up until the end of lockdown. They couldn't move any animals, so there was no space. And so then we had phase 2 of dumpings of animals, where people just threw them out and, threw them into parks, commons, and just anywhere really. And the lucky ones were the ones that were picked up, that weren't eaten by foxes or attacked by dogs or run over by cars. It's really, really that bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I just find it so shocking, and I really do feel that that people need to be educated. It's something, what I find unbelievable is that we're supposed to be a nation of animal lovers, and yet people don't have that education on how to look after, look after their pets, and really, I actually think that that they should teach this at school. I'm pretty sure that they don't, and
They
and
should. They should.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to have a look to see if there's any questions. Yeah, so one of my viewers asked, how do you manage the increase in interest? Do you ever have to say no to adoption? And you did answer that earlier as well, that you, with regards to vetting the person and actually if you think they're not suitable, then you would say no.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to say no, and I don't actually say no immediately, because I don't blame the individuals for not knowing what's needed for the animals. I say no when they're not willing to take on board any of the recommendations I make or any of the advice I give, and it's really difficult sometimes to deal with people that they don't want to change what they have. I mean, a number of inquiries that came through over lockdown were, I bought a hutch, now I need a rabbit for the hutch. Can I get one off you? Like, no. So I would go back, and my standard response would be, regrettably, we do not rehome to a hutch-only environment. What the requirements are in order for you to be able to adopt, no, what the requirements are and needs for the animal is blah, blah, blah. And I give the size of the enclosure, the reasons why. I give a background on rabbits, what they're about, what their needs are. I send lots of links to different sites and that give ideas of the type of setups which are acceptable for the outdoors, for the indoors, and the reasons why. And I normally say to people, if you can change this, if you can buy this, if you have a hutch, then that's fine. Could you get an aviary to put that hutch into? You could remove the bottom doors, and it's like you give them ideas on what they can do. But if they don't want to and they turn around and say no, there's nothing I can do. And very sadly, a couple of people have just told me, well, I'm just going to go and buy one. And I've just said, well, I can't stop you. What can I do?
So even after you've educated them, they still, they're going to go and buy from somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, some people have said, you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my
goodness.
But
they're the ones that end up chucking them out, basically. They're the people that I end up having to pick up from, in 6 weeks' time, in 8 weeks' time. And it's really sad. It is really sad. And, we do our utmost to try and help these creatures, but it's not always easy. And, I can't blame the kids. I have to blame the parents, because it's the adults that are not willing to learn. It's the adults that are not willing to change. I had an argument with a lady, and this was some time back, where she wanted to get a rabbit for her 8-year-old daughter. And I was as polite as anything. I talked her through absolutely all the reasons why you cannot get a rabbit. It's a single rabbit. They have to come in pairs as a minimum. A single rabbit for an 8-year-old girl. She wanted the girl to have sole responsibility of looking after this rabbit. And she had a hutch in her garden. So everything was just wrong with this whole conversation. And I think you've asked me before, what have what skills have I taken away from the roles I used to do in my corporate world? Yeah. And it was diplomacy. It was how to handle conversations in a diplomatic way, in a polite way, trying to retain obviously your stance, but at the same time, just trying to be very polite at the same time. And this woman was just not getting it. And she turned around at the end of the conversation and said, I really don't like your attitude. You're just trying to put me off getting a rabbit. And I said, well, in the current setup that you're telling me, then yes, I am. It's just completely unacceptable what you're trying to do. She wanted the rabbit to live outdoors, but to be indoors in the middle of winter, just for the evenings for her daughter to play with. And I said, well, they acclimatized to the outdoors. Your daughter should be going out to play with them. So if you had a big enough space, she could be playing with them in a shed, for instance. Get a shed for her to go into. She can interact with them in a shed. If you keep bringing them in, the animals will suffer because they're acclimatized to the outdoors. She just didn't get it. And she said, I'm just going to do what I want. And you know what? I'm just going to go out and buy one. It's less hassle than dealing with you. So sometimes we just can't win. and there's nothing we can do. So I know that there's a single bunny out there with this individual being looked after, well, say looked after, by an 8-year-old daughter, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I wonder if it's even still there. It breaks my heart, but what can I do? We need to change the way that the animals are sold in shops, the way that the laws operate. You know, we need to stop breeding. We need to stop all of these things.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you as well, actually, both you and Nico are long-term vegans like myself. And so how long have you both been vegan? And what was it like when you used to work for the corporate world? What was it like being a vegan when you worked in the corporate world?
Yeah. So I've been vegan 8 years and on and off vegetarian for a lot of my adult life. And I say on and off. I mean, I used to never buy meat at home, never cook it. But if I went to someone else's house and they cooked meat or a meat dish, then I would eat it. But I wasn't really a vegetarian then. But I was one of those difficult people, my mother called me, to cook for. And I used to be one of those individuals that I used to believe in the RSPCA approved, you know, seal of approval, that the animals were treated wonderfully. As we all know, it's all a farce, and it's just how the RSPCA makes money by charging farmers to get a stamp onto their meat labels. Fundraising, that's all I call it. The animals are treated no different. But I didn't know any better for years and years and years. And I became a vegan through that pigeon experience I spoke about. When I went to release these pigeons in Sainsbury's, I started Googling, you know, all pigeon groups and pigeon rescue. And eventually these people came to me and helped me and guided me and taught me so much. And started adding me to Facebook. And all of a sudden I had this huge amount of friends adding me to Facebook. And the majority of these people were vegans. And I had no idea. And back then, you could see people's feeds on your Facebook. And I started seeing all sorts of information I had never come across in my life ever before. And I was so shocked. In fact, I didn't believe it. I thought, you know, what's all this rubbish coming up on my newsfeed? And I started researching for myself to disprove some of these posts. And I was even more shocked to find that what they were posting was actually correct, but it's just not available unless you look for it. So I immediately, I just went vegan overnight. I just gave up everything. And it's funny because when you first go vegan, you know, I kept a few tins of tuna and a few tins of sardines. And I thought, well, when I finish everything in the cupboard, then I'll you know, I'm not going to buy any more, but I'll just finish everything off. And over time, I just couldn't bring myself to eat those things. So I gave everything away and my mum took them. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I'd been vegan 3 weeks when I met Nico. And in fact, it was my first vegan event. It was a fundraiser for animal equality. It was a dinner in the West End. And I got really into animal things at the time. And this fundraiser came up and I went. And he was there. That's where we met. Nico was born vegetarian. So he'd been vegetarian all his life, but he'd been vegan 4.5 years at that point. So he's been vegan a lot longer than me, like 12 years, 12.5 years. And, you know, with the Asian community, as you know, it's extremely difficult to get them to give up dairy. You know, they think dairy is sacred for somehow. And, you know, it's almost like impossible to make them understand that dairy is not sacred and actually it's a cow that you're killing. And it's ironic because, you know, it's one of the worshipped animals. And so he went through that. He understands it, obviously, totally, that he went through the same concept. He found it really difficult to part with dairy until he came across the information that really did it for him. And yeah, and that was it. Once the light switch goes on, it's easy. You can just do it. And yeah, initially in the corporate world, it was hard. It was hard because I found it difficult to actually articulate a a lot of the reasons why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't quite understand it. I just knew it was wrong. I didn't have the facts, the stats, the figures, and, you know, I'm much more confident today to talk about this topic. And in corporate, it was, especially 8 years ago, it was less, they were less accepting of this. But I have to say that during my career, I was very influential in bringing vegan dishes to menus for corporate. I was responsible for taking on catering companies, which I would only give them the contract if they added 2 vegan dishes onto the catering menus. So when I ordered platters for the management team, I wanted to see 2 vegan sandwiches on there, different vegan sandwiches, and so they all agreed. So for every platter that I had to order, there'd be vegan choices on there. Every restaurant we went to had to have vegan choices. There was a local cafe we used to use quite regularly that I was able to influence to have 3 vegan dishes on there. So I was quite pleased that, you know, to a certain extent, I used my power to be able to make changes. And I think the most influential decision that I was able to influence was an end of year gift, you know, for globally, you know, they would give the management team, I think it was 270 management members, they would be given a gift. And this gift was a choice of a leather wallet or a little coffee press, and I managed to build a big enough case to go for the coffee press rather than the leather wallet, and it was such an achievement, and I was quite pleased with that. That's 270 leather wallets less in the world.
That's good. That's really good, and it's great that that you use your position in your job to be able to influence. I remember when I was in the corporate world, you know, many moons ago, I'm a long-term vegan of 23 years, and where I worked for this particular company for 6 years, and they never ever accepted me as a vegan, never. And I thought that that I tried to be a good example of a vegan, and then I remember actually my first day of working for that company, I had no choice but to tell them. I wanted to sort of ease myself into telling them, but I had no choice because my boss asked me if I wanted to go to their Christmas party, and I had to tell her. And then ever since then, I've kind of like I was seen as the person who told everyone that they were vegan on the first day that they joined, and right up until the end. I mean, my boss's boss, even during like a company quiz in a pub, she said, "Oh, I remember on your first day you told everyone that you're vegan, and you're not a good example of a vegan." And and it was just, I did get a hard time. I did, and I was glad
I'm quite thick-skinned. I think you know, of course I used to tease, and, you know, any opportunity to make a joke about vegans, I'd be on the end of it. But I think I'm quite hard-skinned, so I used to rise above it. But I was the vegan. But mind you, by the time I left my job, I think there were 2 other vegans in the company. So
good.
yeah, on my floor especially. So I was quite pleased.
I do actually wonder the people who gave me a hard time, you know, how they feel about veganism now, because it's really taken off. I mean, like, you know, it's very popular, and you're basically, if a company or a restaurant doesn't cater for vegans, then they are the odd one out. So yeah. I really, really hope, even though I wasn't successful in converting any of them, or you know, even actually seeing that veganism is a good thing, I really, really hope that that somebody else has managed to actually convince them, even though I wasn't able to. But,
but I hope so too.
Yeah, I always thought that that perhaps I was a bit ahead of my time, and
Yeah.
you
Gosh,
know
yeah, I would
that
say so.
that one yeah, and that one day that there will come a time when veganism will be accepted, and yeah, I mean I've been waiting for so long for there to be vegan options available. I remember, years ago, 20 odd years ago, going into M&S and actually I couldn't find a vegan sandwich at all. For lunch, I was thinking to myself, well, how difficult is it to make a vegan sandwich? And now they're available everywhere. You've got so
Everywhere.
many. Yeah, well, ready-made meals that are
Yeah.
available, quick snacks that
Everything,
people can do
everything. There's no
everything.
excuse today. I mean, everything is available. It's at your fingertips. We got cheese.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah,
And it's a
it's
lot
just
better
everything.
these days than it
Yeah,
used to
I don't.
be.
Yeah, I don't miss anything. And at the beginning, my mum used to think it was all a phase, and she was so anti-vegan. Every opportunity
Oh,
she had
really?
was an anti-vegan. But I think she's much more accepting now, and my family do make a huge effort when we go and visit. We'll have vegan days, and they're much more. The older generation find it harder to understand it. My older
Mm.
aunt, she just doesn't get it. I'll say to her, I don't drink cow's milk and I bring my own milk. But she'll say, do you want butter on your toast, love? And it's like, no. Or she'll say, do you want a cheesecake? It's not milk. And it's like, she just doesn't get it. But, I just don't think I'll ever change her. But yeah, no, my
Mm.
mum's much, much more accepting of it than she was, I would say, 5 years ago. And yeah, I do it's so normal to me. I just don't even think about being vegan. I'm just me. It's just so normal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Same here. It's ingrained in me, and it's just yeah. To me, it's normal, and the outside world is kind of catching up, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yay!
yeah. So, what kind of things do you do to? I know that you're really extremely busy day in day out, but what kind of things do you do to relax and de-stress?
The dreaded question. Unfortunately, and it's really awful, but we don't have time to watch TV. We don't have time to sit down. I'm sitting down now, making the most of it. So this call's going to last longer. um, we don't distress. We don't have any social interaction, to be honest, because we are so run off our feet.
Mm.
Last year we had a little bit more time, and we used to go on these nature walks with a lovely bunch of uh, well knowledgeable individuals, including people that we both know, and and that was lovely. To be able to go into the country, go somewhere green, and learn about insects and birds and trees and weeds. It's something completely different. So a day out every 3-4 months was just absolutely incredible. And I'm ashamed to say we've not done that for over a year. And that used to be our relaxation time. We don't get time to go for a walk. We don't get time to go to the cinema. We don't get time to do anything. I mean, that's going to have to change because we will reach breaking point. But it's been exceptional times, exceptional circumstances, and we always say, it's a one-off. It's a one-off, or this doesn't happen every day, but there just seems to have been so many things that happen one after the other that it's
Mm.
really eaten into our lives, into our time, into everything. So, I mean, the last few months I've barely cooked a proper meal for us, to be honest. We skip meals. We're having lunch at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so therefore we don't have dinner, and it's just been all up in the air. It's just been so busy. Too many
Mm.
vet appointments, too many errands, too many rescues, too many birds, and yeah. So I'm quite lucky now, especially since lockdown has lifted. I started to get volunteers. So
Oh, yeah.
hopefully we can get into a routine where, you know, I have people coming in, you know, every other day, and, you know, we can
How
stay
many
on top of
volunteers do you
things.
have?
So we have a friend, a long-term friend and volunteer. He's the most permanent volunteer. His name is Mark. He's here today. I'm just going to turn the camera around. Hi. So he comes here. He comes here 3 times a week. And he's like a machine. He just, you know, you give him a list of things to do and he just gets through them. He's got so much energy, and, you know, we are so exhausted that we start our day exhausted. He comes in fresh, full of energy, and he just gets on with it. So he's a massive help. I've had a new French girl start just last week, so she's going to do Wednesday mornings, and she was extremely helpful this week when she came. And she cleaned out the guinea pigs for me. She cleaned out the hamster cage. We've got a new guy that's going to come ad hoc, as and when he's got days available. But we'll see. You know, I get lots of people wanting to volunteer, and I invite them over to meet the animals and see the rescue, and I talk them through the daily chores, the weekly chores, the ad hoc chores, the one-off jobs, and, you know, and I say, you know, that there's always something that needs to be done here. And but what tends to happen is that firstly, lots of people are shocked that this is our home. So of course they don't feel as comfortable coming here because it's a home, and it's not for everyone. So it's not what they expect, and you know, most of the tasks here are cleaning. When you have animals, cleaning is the biggest part of the work, and I just don't think that that's something that people want to do, or they don't realize how hard it is, especially when you have them inside your home. You know, you're cleaning out litter trays, you're sweeping up, you're changing towels that have been peed on, you're, you know, changing cardboard, topping up hay, and I have a 10-year-old volunteer that comes once a month, and she does grooming, and she's done litter trays and sweeping up, and but we sit her down to do grooming. Grooming is a huge part of bunny ownership, you know, for bunny welfare, so that they don't ingest hair, because hair can cause blockages in their intestines. So when she comes over once a month, it forces Nico to sit down and groom all the bunnies. And yeah, so that's quite good as well. But yeah, I mean, we're always looking for people that can just spare a few hours, but it has to be something that you know, that they want to do, and we're quite happy for people to spend time with the animals. You know, we don't have time to socialize with them, so if they want to come here and sit with the bunnies for a couple of hours, then, you know, that's even a good thing to do.
So what times would people, I mean, obviously, you know, they have to make an appointment with
Yeah.
you first. So
Yeah.
what times are you open for visitors to come and visit?
Sure. So, because of COVID, we have to manage visits to make sure that people don't clash when they come over. So we have to schedule people in. And we always tell people to come after 2, just to let me know what days they want to come. As long as it's after 2, there are parking restrictions outside our door between 2 and 3, which makes it even more difficult. So if you come after 3, it's even better. Yeah, and you just let me know what day and what time you want to come. I can check that nobody else has booked themselves in. And you know, I'm quite happy to have people here. I want people to see what we do. I want people to see how hard it is to be doing this, and especially if they're considering having bunnies. I always encourage people to come here first. If you want them for your kids, get your kids to volunteer, change litter trays, sweep up. You know, leave them with me a couple of hours. I'll soon
That's
put them
really
off.
good. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, because
I think that's what should happen.
yeah, yeah. I just remembered actually. You know, earlier we were talking about how in schools they should have education about pet care. I remember actually when I volunteered for Animal Aid. I've got my Animal Aid topper at the moment. So yeah, I used to volunteer as a school speaker, and at one time, actually, I was asked to go into a school to talk about pet care, and that was just a volunteer, me going in to talk about it. So really, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I did a lot of research. Animal Aid have quite a wide range of resources, educational resources, but then I also looked up other organisations as well, and I did talk about pet care for for dogs and for cats mainly, but also I told the kids as well that, say if you're walking along a the riverside and you see an injured bird, do call, call. Well, I may have said something like call the nearest rescue or an animal hospital, and don't just leave leave the bird there, and do not throw. Like how tin cans used to have those
Pulling.
Yeah, so those plastic rings, and I said to them, if you see any plastic rings, any plastic at all, make sure you pick them up, because birds and ducks, they will, they'll eat it, and it will get stuck in their throat. So that's something that I did educate the kids when I went. But to be honest, yeah, thank you. But that's just me as a volunteer going in to the school. Really, they should have. They should be educated, regularly about these issues. I feel that kids don't really learn life skills at school, and really that they should learn about these things, life skills, pet care, on a regular basis as well. And that's probably the reason why they kind of don't know what to do, or the parents don't know what to do, and they will have a pet for a few days or a few months, and then they'll get bored, or they'll not be able to handle it. So I also think that schools have a responsibility to educate kids regularly, about pet care. I feel, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully, things will change in the future, and yeah. So
We hope so.
I hope so. Yeah, we just need to, as we were talking about earlier, we just need to keep talking to people. Social media is a great way, actually, of educating people. In the days of when I gave Animal Aid school talks, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't. I mean, there may have been Facebook at the time, but I wasn't very active on there. But now, social media is really a great way for people to do campaigning, and just to educate other people. And it may be that yeah, I mean, you get people who are ignorant, or who are just ignorant, but then you also get people who don't want to know, who think that yeah, that their way is their way, kind of thing. And but yeah, but anyway, yeah, so that's great. I mean, it is just really fantastic work that you and Nico are doing, for the animals. And thank you so much. Just a couple of quick questions, before we close the interview. So we talked about you and Nico being long-term vegans, and obviously as a vegan, it's not just the diet, it's the vegan lifestyle as well. And so I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite Tropic product? And of course the entire range is vegan.
So as you know, It took some convincing for me to be bought into that Factor 50 tinted moisturizer. You were not going to sell that to me. However, it's really good. I really like it. I really, really like it. And, you know, I'm actually out of it. So, you know, I've been using it because obviously it's been so hot and I've been out in the sun. And yeah, it's brilliant. I really like it. So that's probably my favorite now, believe it or not.
Oh, fantastic. Did you say that you were out and you're needing some more?
We'll catch up separately.
Okay, fantastic. So what would you like my viewers at home, thank you so much to those that have stayed right up until the end. I know we're sort of approaching an hour and a half, and we've still actually got a couple of people that are still watching live, so thank you. So what would you like my viewers to kind of take away from our chat today?
I think, you know, the most important topic is animal sales. You know, please speak to anybody that's considering buying an animal of any sort, whether it's a dog or a cat or a rabbit, a hamster. There are animals in rescues everywhere. Rescue centres are bursting at the seams. Please encourage your friends, your family, their friends, their family to just consider adoption. Go to a rescue centre. All the animals will be health checked, they'll be neutered, they'll be vaccinated, they'll, you know, they'll educate you, they'll teach you what you need to do. They'll advise you against taking on particular animals that you're considering that are not fit for you. And you know, just go to the right people. Just don't buy animals, adopt, don't shop.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being my guest today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. And
thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. And it was such a pleasure to see all your little furry friends as well. And I hope my viewers at home as well enjoyed it. I'm sure they did. And thank you so much to the viewers for joining us today. If you're watching on replay, don't forget to put hashtag replay in the comment section. What I'll do actually is after the interview, I'm going to share a link to Chinzia's Little Furries Rescue in Stanmore, and so I'll be sharing the page. So if you did have any further questions for Chinzia, you'll be able to get in touch with her through her page. And yeah, and then also I'll share the link to the petition as well that we spoke about banning the sale of all animals from pet shops and also from third-party sellers as well. And so okay, just remember the motto: rescue, don't buy. Thank you again, Chinzia. And
thanks
so
very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye.
Until next time. Bye. Bye.